All right, everybody. Um, Sorry if I might not get to everybody, but great to see you all. And just a couple opening comments. One is that I just added sheet music and drone play along tracks to the uh, practice journey page for this lesson on fiddle on Flop-Eared Mule. I'm gonna paste it in the chat just in case you want to easily refer to the sheet music, and it'll have both versions there that I suggested you try. So you can feel free to easily click through to the site with that. And then I had a question, just two other questions for you, other than the usual, where are you from, which I'm always happy to hear where folks are from, and any other little details. So the other question I had, if you could all take a moment to just tell me if you've learned one or both versions of Flop-Eared Mule. And if you haven't learned either, don't worry, just let me know so it'll help me understand how this whole process works. So again, have you learned either version of Flop-Eared Mule is the first question. And
Can't hear a thing.
second question is just, has anybody learned out there in this lesson learned the Georgia Shuffle? So let me know that if you've learned the Georgia Shuffle. Sarah's ready for the second. First, looks like if most of you have learned the basic. Vera and Patty have learned both. Okay. And then sorry, the second question, if you just in case you forgot. So the Georgia Shuffle, we might do a little bit of the Georgia Shuffle. The reason I'm asking is that if a lot of you have not learned it, then it might not be worth doing too much with it, but I'll probably do it with it and then just suggest it. As usual, I'm trying to find a way to make this inclusive for as many people as possible by offering advanced things and then more basic things. And so just continue to give me feedback on like if it's too much, you know, if you want more, you want it to be more interesting, if there's something you're missing from it. Okay, cool. So we're gonna get started. We're gonna have a minimal warm up. What I'm trying to do is encourage you guys to warm up on your own. But we are gonna do a little bit because I wanna go over a few things. So we're just gonna start with a simple G major scale. I'm gonna play a drone track and I'm gonna mute everybody. So just give me a moment to do that. So I'm muting all you guys for now. Might unmute you later. And let's go. I'm gonna start up a G drone. And let me know if it's too loud or you want it to be louder. Otherwise, I'm gonna let it ride. This is good on my end. And so we're gonna start by just doing a G major scale. And then we're gonna play a part of the tune of the A part. In case some of you didn't notice, let me just pause this for a sec. In case you didn't notice, the A and the B parts are based in a different scale. The A part's G major, the B part's D major of Flop-Eared Mule. And so anyway, doesn't usually happen in, well, I'm not gonna say that, but a lot of folk music will be in one key the whole time. So that said, we're gonna kind of approach each differently, but then do kind of fun ways to go between the two keys in this lesson. So we'll start with G major. And we're just gonna simply start with G major in the low octave with hoedown. So here we go, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Let's do it one more time, and I'm gonna do it in the upper octave. Feel free to join me starting D3. You can also, if you want more, you can do it in the low octave and that'll work. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, good. Let me just make a little audio. So now we're going to play the first quarter of Flop-Eared Mule, the basic version. Again, the sheet music is on the Practice Journeys page. So I'm actually going to look at it so I play it exactly as it's written. So we're going to just do, I'm not going to do the pickup for now. I'm just going to start with A1 and just do. So now you try that. Okay, good. And now here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to play it and then sing, hum, or whistle it, and then alternate that way a few times. So starting with playing, 3 and 4 and. Sing it. Do 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 do, or hum. All right, and now we're gonna do something fun. Let's first start by playing a G and D double stop. Let's do quarter notes. 1, 2. And now let's try to sing and play that part, play back up to yourself during that. So I'll just start doing it. And if it's difficult for you, you can switch back and forth would be one strategy, or you can play the tune in your head, audiate it. So I'm just gonna start 3 and 4 and do 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 do. And so I'm going to ask you to do that a little bit more on your own. And if it's very difficult, and it might be that much, you can simplify it to just something like do, 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 do. Or you can do that whole part. If you hate singing, then just either hum it or just alternate between words and that part just for now. Just do that a little on your own. Okay, thanks for doing that. Now we're gonna alternate between the scale a little bit and that part one more time. So now I'd like you to try a different variation. I'm gonna suggest one. I'm gonna suggest slur 2, separate 2 for the scale. And then we're gonna go back to. And then we're gonna do. And in this way, you'll connect the scale with the tune with this little part. So starting with the scale, 3 and 4 and. That's first quarter. So I want to do it one more time. I just want to point something out, which is that slur 2, separate 2 bowing works well on the first quarter of Flop-Eared Mule. Check it out. So on the second bar, when we do this. You can actually try doing slur 2, separate 2 there. Why don't we just focus on that for a minute? With slur 2, separate 2. All right, and now we'll go back to doing the scale with slur 2, separate 2, followed by this part with slur 2, separate 2. 3 and 4 and. Tune. One more time. Scale. Okay, good. So if you're really struggling or you have a question, remember to just send a chat. I'm taking notes because I often figure out a lot of stuff as we do these lessons. So, all right. So now what I'd like to do is do a similar thing with the beginning of the B part, which remember is in D major. So we're gonna pause the G drone and we're gonna play the D major scale now. And then we'll eventually kind of alternate the two parts in a fun way. So just simply do the D major scale with hoedown. And actually, let's do one thing before we do that. There's a way to play hoedown that's a little bit got a better fiddle feel, which is accenting the offbeats or the first short note. And let's just do that a little bit, like. Do you hear that? I use more bow and a little bit of grit. Exaggerate the accent, exaggerate. Do it a little on your own at your own pace while I take a note. Great, and now we'll just simply apply that to the scale. I'll do it once, I'll start it, and then we'll do it together. So it'll be like. Okay, here we go. A 1 octave scale of the D major. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Once more. Okay, good. So now let's look at the first quarter of the B part. We're still working from the basic version. So the first quarter of the B part is. All right. So why don't you just practice that on your own a little bit? If anybody's stumped, let me know, but just loop on the first quarter. I'll do it a little bit. Do it on your own, at your own speed, just a little. Okay, very good. And now, on your own, you can either sing, hum, or hear it in your head. I would like you to play that melody. So if you hate singing, try to visualize the melody. That's audiation. If not, just sing it. Do 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 do. Female voice, maybe. Do 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 do. On your own a little bit. I'm gonna do the audiation myself right now. Question for you all, just pausing for a student question. How many of you have tried this practice of audiation, hearing music in your head? How many of you tried it? So I see some good. And how many of you do it regularly? Does anybody do it like a lot? Awesome. All right, that's great to hear. It's a very, very powerful thing. And just a quick note on it, you can practice when you don't have your instrument if you know how to do audiation. You can be sitting, in traffic and just be like, okay, how did flop-eared mule go? How does the variation go? You can start to do that, and you can kind of integrate it with actually listening to recordings. You can listen to a recording, hit pause, and then see if you can hear it. Very powerful. So Tom says, drives my wife crazy, me humming the same tune all day long. Well, you're gonna have to switch to full audiation, Tom, so she doesn't have to hear anything. But then she might be annoyed because you'll be like, I'm just audiating music. And yeah, you can't win, right? But that's what love's all about, These little annoyances and that we get over. Okay. So, all right, so let's get back to it. So now what I want you to do, if you did do the audiation, see if you can just play quarter notes with double stops D and A. This is a D major chord in this context. And see if you can hear that melody without singing it yet. I'll sing it, but I don't want you to right now. Do, 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 do. Now see if you can play the double stops and hear it in your head. All right, folks, and now just put them together. If singing is hard, then you can hum it or whistle it. But do 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 la 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 la. All right, you can experiment with different sounds to use when you sing. You can sing with la's, la 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 la, or do's, do 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 do, or take away the consonant and just do oohs, ooh 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 ooh, or ohs, oh. It'll be different depending. Some of them will be harder to do, and depending on the range and where it's at for your voice. Okay, so that's kind of a brief flash singing lesson. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, again, I'm kind of got the chat in the corner, so if anybody does have anything that comes up, just let me know. I wish I had the words to the tunes. I have a hard time matching the tune names to tunes. Yeah, that would help, Patty says. Okay, so let's see. So now what we're gonna do is we're going to do a practice to help you hear the difference between the A part, which is in G major, and the B part, which is in D major. So we're going to start, and I'm not going to use a drone just to kind of, because they're in different tonal centers. So all we're going to do now is with two bows, alternate between G major scale and D major scale. All right. So it'll be like about this fast, one octave. For the G major, you can start on D3 or open G, and then we'll do the D major starting on open D. Starting with G major, here we go. And by the way, you can add variations in there if you like. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and G. D major. Now we're going to do less on each and loop it a little bit more. We're going to do single notes only going up on each one. So da 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 da, and then switch to D. All right. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and D major. G major. Let's try to do it faster. Dun, na, 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 na. And if you feel comfortable, after a while, try it with slur 2, separate 2. Here we go, starting with G. It'll be like dun, na, na, na. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and D. G. D. Try slur 2, separate. Awesome, people. I would want you to now do it on your own, at your own pace. Just alternate between G and D major and try to throw in a variation of your own choosing, like slur 2, separate 2, hoedown, or something completely different. The only thing I'll suggest is doing the same variation on both scales. So if you do Georgia shuffle on the G major, also do it on D major. So just do that on your own a little bit. Okay, very good, folks. So now that you've kind of got in your ear how it sounds when we shift from G major to D major, we're going to do that with the first quarters of the A part and the B part. This will help you eventually be able to figure out what the scale is for a tune, which will help you play chords, help you improvise, help you just learn the tune. So it's a very good kind of skill to have. So what we're going to do is play why don't we do call and response? First quarter of the A part was. You try. And then the first quarter of the B part, which again is in D major, I'm gonna play it, and I'm gonna not do the very last note, which I have in the sheet music is A1. I'm just gonna end on a longer A3 note. Check it out. Your turn. So now we're gonna go between those two versions, okay? So what I'm gonna do is, you can all still hear me. So I'm gonna start by playing it, and then I'm gonna switch to playing the chords, and you can really do what you want, but I encourage you to just keep fiddling for now. I'm going to do the chords so you can kind of hear the chordal context as you do it. And then I'm going to sing the melody. So I'm going to start by playing it and counting you in, starting with the first quarter of the A part. Then we're going to go to the first quarter of the B part and then start over. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. B part. A part. B8. A. Na 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 na. Do 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 na 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 na. A part. Na 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 do 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 do. Oh 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 oh. Na 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 na. All right. Let's pause. Good job, everybody. Thank you all for trying that out. And I just want to just pause and say that in all these things we're doing in this lesson, I hope that you try a little bit of it on your own and do it in your own way. Maybe you choose to not emphasize the singing as much as some other practice, but the whole idea of the practice journey is to take one tune and see how much you can learn from it, how much you can practice of things you already know, how much can you bring back to that as the general philosophy of it. So now what we're going to do is, I think, yeah, let's just simply play the entire A part, and then we'll maybe mess around with the Georgia shuffle a little bit. But let's just take a break from all this kind of more experimental practice stuff and simply play the A part. Let's just do it twice in a row, okay? So I will count you in, and then what I think I'm going to do is that the second time through, I'm going to play the chords, all right? So here we go. I'll count you in. It'll be like do, do, do. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Again. Do, 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 do. La, 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 na, 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 do, 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 do. Na, 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 na. How is the tempo on that? if it was fine, you don't have to say anything. If it was too, if you want to try it, I suppose we could break and have you do. Why don't you do one pass just on your own at your own speed? Practice what you need to practice. Now I just want to do a little bit of the Georgia Shuffle. If you don't feel like doing this, or if you haven't learned it and you're intimidated, you can just practice something else on your own. But we're just going to do a simple warm up to doing the Georgia Shuffle. I'll do it a little bit and then explain it. So since I've made those Georgia Shuffle lessons, I found an even easier way to get into it. And I hope to make a follow-up lesson. But you can start by just doing with separate bows, open, 1, 2, 3, open. Just another few seconds. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start up bow. Just everybody open 1 and then up bow. And then we're going to do a down on G2. Once more. And then an up bow on G3. And then down, starting up again. Now the crucial step. After that up bow on G3, we're gonna continue and do 3 slurred notes, but starting the pattern over. Listen just a little bit. That's the crucial step when you really are implementing the Georgia Shuffle. Try it a bit on your own. Here it is again. Try it at your own pace. Okay. So I want to do one more Georgia Shuffle thing and then kind of move back to the tune. Again, this is part of the practice journey. You're going along, you think you're going one place, and then you think you're going to Spain, but then you get diverted to Portugal, like Fiddler Mike is in Portugal, and you have a good time there, but then you remember you wanted to go to Spain, so you go to Spain. So now we're just going to do the hoedown pattern with Georgia Shuffle a little bit. And so I'll first do what we're going to eventually get to and then break it down for you. So we're going to eventually do. And so basically what that is it's taking a standard hoedown. Feel free to join in now with separate bows, G, G1 on hoedown. So that's fairly basic, but now what we're going to do is do the same bowing, the Georgia Shuffle with that. Listen a little bit with it broken down. Up, down, up, down, up. If you think you got it, just keep practicing it. I'm going to break it down for folks a little bit more. So again, if you can't do that yet, start with up, down. I'm just going to build it note by note. Just do that if you don't have the whole cycling thing. Sorry, it starts up bow. And then add a little bit more. Again. One more time on that. And then the crucial step on that last up bow on G1, we're going to slur it into the G where it starts over. Sorry for just throwing that at you. I haven't even done a lesson on that particular thing, but I thought I would try it. If anybody has a further question, ask it in a chat. And otherwise, just practice it a teeny bit on your own. If you feel confident with it G to open like that, then you can try it on the full scale. And so on. Only do that if you really are in the groove with just 2 notes. Okay, very good. So we will return to that. So, and another thing we can do with the practice journey is a principle called interleaving. I did not invent that term. It's a learning strategy in which you mix different things together and you cycle through different things. And it helps you each time you get to, so when we return to the Georgia Shuffle a little bit later, you might be a little better at it. You might have a fresher approach. That's interleaving. So now what we're going to do, we're going to play the entire A part, and then we're going to take the opposite approach of adding variation. We're going to simplify it even further, which will open up new possibilities. So first, simply play the A part one more time. Let's just do it together if you like. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to strip this to a very core melody. It'll be kind of boring sounding at first, but then as we'll see, it'll allow you to create with new ways with this tune and hear music in a new way. So what we're going to do is let's look at the A part. So I'll just play once quickly. Basically, we're going to play less notes. So I'll do that again. A1. I'll say it. A1 to D3 to D1 to open D to G2. Here it is again. Try that on your own. Just so you can get a little perspective on what's happening. Let's do that once and then the basic first quarter once. So I'll do it fast once. All right, so let's do the basic. Let's do the strip down alternating with the basic. I'm just going to start doing it and just join in. So 3 and 4 and. Basic. Strip. Basic. Okay, we'll do the same process for the second quarter, which was, I'll play the basic. And so a way to do the stripped down version would be like. So I'll talk through that for you guys. Open D to A, which is a D major triad for those of you keeping score at home. Building up the stripped version. And then we're going to do D3, 1, 3. So, which is a G major triad. So let's listen for a sec. D major, this is how the stripped version starts. D major triad, then G major triad. Isn't that cool? Now you try that. Again. All right. So now let's return to the basic version. I'll do it fast once. And then let's do it together more slowly. So 3 and 4 and. All right. So one more time, the stripped version. Well, let's do call and response. Your turn. And then one more time, the basic version on your own. And now we'll simply alternate between the two. Let's start this time with the basic version going to the stripped version. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Stripped. Basic. Stripped. Okay, very cool. So now we're going to get into how much fun you can have with a single fiddle tune by starting to play with variation. So now that you know this stripped down version, we're gonna build it back up in a new way. This is kind of the core of like the creative process of fiddling, I think. You know, taking things away, putting things in, going back and forth. So now we're gonna do a real simple variation. Cindy is missing the G triad. So can you play this? Can you play that whole piece, Cynthia? Anyway, the G triad is this, D3 to A1 to A3. That's a G major triad. And just to be clear, the beginning of this is D major triad. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to add hoedown to that. So this is what it's going to sound like. So we took the stripped down version, we added hoedown. Okay. Let's do it again. 3 and 4 and. And again, let's loop. Okay. Let's do a similar thing with the stripped down version of the A part. So I'll review that for you real quick. The stripped down version of the A part is. All right. So after you play that, see if you can add the hoedown on your own without me doing it. See if you can find a way to make that work on your own. Okay, and just in case you need it, I'm gonna play that stripped down version plus hoedown. Oh, sorry, I didn't do the hoedown. Here we go. I'll point out that that is a G major triad as well, the notes of it. So again, that contains G, B, and D, that little phrase. So now we're going to continue with that bit. For those of you who know double stops, we're going to add double stops. We're adding droning double stops. So meaning we're just droning an open string with that instead of doing two-fingered kind of chordal double stops. So I'll just break it down a teeny bit. We start with A1 and D. Basically, you play the open string to the left for now. That's not true. When you play G2, you can play open D. And then add hoedown. I'm going to loop on that and try to join in. 3 and 4 and. Single notes. Double stops. And double stops. So you could potentially do this variation for the entire tune. I'll demonstrate a little bit. All right. And so in that way, you've totally reinvented the melody. All right. So there's a bunch of other stuff I wanted to do that didn't get to, and I'm going to try to hit up a little bit of it now. So I might move a teeny bit more quickly, but so what I want to do is talk about the variation version versus the basic version of this tune the arrangements I made. So in the variation version, instead of starting A1, which is B, it starts on E4, which is also B, and it's the same phrase. I didn't do the very last D1 there. So what I want to do now is just have you loop on the first quarter, the A part, but to the variation version. So I'll start and join in. 3 and 4 and. If that's hard, do the bass the other version. All right. So now all we're going to do is alternate between the two octaves. All right. So I'll start on the A1 version, the basic version, and then what do I'm calling the variation version. I'm just going to start and join in. 1 and 2 and 3 and basic. Variation. Basic. Variation. Now that may be hard for some of you. And remember, on your own practice, you can always do a smaller window of that thing. You can, instead of doing the whole quarter, you can do a single bar or even a smaller bit. I like to think of break tunes into bits, bars, and quarters. So what you could do is the first bar, or to alternate between the first bars of each part. Let's do. So let me do it fast. We'll just do the first bar just to demonstrate this. So 3 and 4 and now the variation. 4, 4. Right? You could do the full first quarters again. You could do the full first half, or you could even alternate between the full A part in the basic version and the upper version, upper octave. Doing that will really help you to get better at transposing, and it'll also help you to map out the fiddle and to really make the fiddle more part of your voice, connect your voice to that. So let's do that one more example of that, and then I think we'll end this lesson. And I'm going to add, I'll talk more in a minute. Let's just do the same process with the first quarter of the B part. So the basic version was, that's the first quarter of the B part. Just once it would be. All right. And then if we look at the variation version, again, the same exact thing, an octave higher. Here it is again, E3. And now we're simply going to go between the two octaves. I call this, sometimes I call it octave talking as a practice strategy, also an improvisation strategy. So starting with the low octave or the basic version. And now let's do the second bar, and then we'll put the whole thing together. So the second bar, the basic was, I'm not doing the last note just for ease of getting between the two. And then if we look at the variation, same notes, but starting E3. Again. And now we will alternate these two, and then we'll alternate the whole first quarter. So starting with the basic, the lower octave, upper, once more. Last thing we'll do, we will alternate, second to last thing, we will alternate between the whole first quarter of the first quarter of the basic version, A part, first quarter of the A part and the variation. So I'll do it fast. That's what we're gonna do, but slower tempo. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Upper octave now. Lower. All right, folks, last thing I want to do is simply to bring it all home with a good sound. Simply play open D or D and A double stop. Concentrate on a good sound. Pay attention to your breath. See if you're breathing evenly. Try to just end with a really calm, good sound. I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to just do. All right, folks. Thanks. That was a fun lesson. Thank you all for taking part. And as usual, I'll probably break us, whoever wants to remain and break into groups to kind of practice and chat more. I will do that. I just want to say that both this and the practice journey I did last week, the Wildwood Flower, I'm going to eventually post, and I'm going to post an outline of what we did, and I'm going to add to it because there's some things that like other things I wanted to do that we didn't get to, but again, the basic process, we got the gist of it today of taking one tune. I mean, isn't it amazing that we took one tune and we went for an hour, and you could really be interesting the whole time. You don't have to get bored of a single tune. So that's really what I hope you get out of it, and you design your own way to do a practice journey. So, okay, well, all that said, I'm going to say goodbye, and anybody who does not want to join a practice group or who doesn't want to stay on and chat in a breakout room.
I can't stay.
Then please feel free to say goodbye. Otherwise, I'm going to, as soon as a few people have dropped out, I'm going to form some groups for you guys.
Go to fiddlehead.com for a progressive, step-by-step course outline, color-coded tabs, play-along tracks, sheet music, and much more. Thanks for watching the video. Excellent! And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.